The sound that broke me wasn't a gasp or a cry. It was a laugh. Hers, low, careless, the kind she used to make only when she felt safe. It drifted down the hallway before I even reached the bedroom door, warm and intimate, followed by a man's voice I didn't recognize. My hand froze on the doorknob. The brass felt colder than it should have, like it already knew what waited on the other side. For a split second, I convinced myself I'd misunderstood, that it was a podcast, a movie scene, anything but what my gut screamed. Denial is fast. It builds excuses before your heart can catch up. I pushed the door open anyway. Clothes were scattered across the floor like the aftermath of a storm. Her red dress, my favorite, hung half off the chair. She was on the bed, sheets twisted around her legs, her hair loose in the way I loved because it meant she'd let her guard down. The man beside her jerked upright, panic flashing across his face. She didn't scream. She didn't even cover herself at first. She just stared at me, eyes wide, mouth parted, as if I were the intruder. I remember thinking how quiet it was. No dramatic music, no thunder, just the soft hum of the ceiling fan and my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. "Mark," she said finally, my name trembling like it might shatter if she held it too tightly. "This isn't." I raised a hand, not in anger, not to strike, just to stop the words before they could turn into lies I'd have to carry forever. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped something vital out of me and left the rest to collapse inward. For months there had been signs, small ones. A phone turned face down, late meetings that didn't line up, a new password she'd laughed off as work stuff. I told myself marriage meant trust, not suspicion. I told myself love was choosing to believe even when doubt whispered otherwise. Now doubt stood naked in front of me, undeniable. The man scrambled for his clothes, muttering apologies that meant nothing. I barely saw him. My eyes were locked on her, on the woman I'd built a life with, on the person who knew the worst parts of me and had still promised to stay. "Mark, please," she said, tears welling now, as if her body had finally caught up to the moment. "I can explain." I believed her. That was the most painful part. I believed she could explain. People don't betray each other in a vacuum. There are reasons. Loneliness, neglect, fear, wanting to feel seen again. Understanding that didn't make my hands stop shaking. "Get dressed," I said quietly. She flinched like she'd expected shouting, maybe violence, maybe a man breaking things to prove how hurt he was. Instead, I stepped back into the hallway and waited, each second stretched, thick and suffocating. I listened to drawers opening, fabric rustling, the sound of a life rearranging itself behind a closed door. When she came out, she looked smaller somehow, wrapped in a sweater she pulled tight around herself. Her eyes searched my face for rage and didn't find it. That seemed to scare her more. "Say it," she whispered. "Yell at me. Do something." I leaned against the wall because my legs felt unreliable. "How long?" She hesitated, a heartbeat too long. "A few months." The word months echoed in my skull. Months of shared dinners, of lazy Sundays, of whispered I love yous before sleep. Months where I'd unknowingly played the fool in my own marriage. Was it real? I asked before I could stop myself. Her shoulders sagged. "I don't know. I think I just didn't feel like myself anymore. With him, I felt noticed." There it was. The truth without excuses. It hurt more than any lie could have. I nodded slowly. "Did you plan on telling me?" She shook her head, sobbing now. "I didn't want to lose you." I almost laughed at that. The irony was sharp enough to cut. She'd already lost me. We were just standing in the wreckage pretending otherwise. Silence settled between us, heavy and final. I thought about the fights we'd had recently, the distance I'd blamed on stress, the way we'd both stopped asking hard questions because answers might hurt. I thought about the vows we'd exchanged and how fragile promises are when they stop being tended. "What happens now?" she asked. I looked at her, really looked, at the guilt, the fear, the woman who was both the love of my life and the source of my deepest pain. I felt anger flicker, then exhaustion swallow it whole. "If you want," I said slowly, choosing each word like it mattered because it did. You can stay here tonight. We'll sleep in separate rooms. Tomorrow we'll talk about lawyers or counseling or whatever you think might fix this. Hope flashed across her face. You're not leaving? No, I said. I'm giving you a choice. Her breath hitched. She nodded, whispering thank you like it was a gift instead of a consequence. She went to the guest room. I stood there long after the door closed, listening to the house settle around me. When I finally moved, it wasn't toward our bedroom. It was toward the office. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out the envelope I'd hidden there weeks ago. Inside were printed emails, hotel receipts, photographs taken from a distance. Proof I'd gathered after the first lie cracked something in me. Proof I'd never intended to use until now. I added one more thing to the envelope. The house keys. Then I slid it into my briefcase. I slept on the couch that night, staring at the ceiling, letting the truth settle. In the morning, she would wake up believing she still had time to fix what she'd broken. She never heard me leave. Later, she would find the envelope on the kitchen table, my wedding ring resting on top like a period at the end of a sentence. And she would finally understand what I meant. If you want, you can keep what's left.